I asked dozens of homeowners after they finished renovating their kitchens. If you were to redo it, what would you change first? No one said cabinets, no one said countertops, and the following tips are a compilation of those answers. You'd be awesome if you liked this video. 1. Create multiple different kitchen design options. One of the most costly mistakes in kitchen renovations doesn't happen during construction, but beforehand, when the homeowner sees a beautiful design and decides to go for it without comparing it to any other options. The problem is, you only truly understand what you need after seeing what you don't. Experienced designers often recommend having at least 2 to 4 design drafts before finalizing a plan. This isn't because they want to prolong the project, but because a layout that looks great in renders can reveal numerous problems when placed next to another option. Lack of prep space, awkward movement flows, or misplaced tall cabinets. These are almost invisible when you only look at the drawing alone. 2. Divide the kitchen into clear zones. Many kitchens are large, but cooking in them is more tiring than in smaller ones, and the reason is often not the size, but that everything is arranged aesthetically rather than logically. You walk around too much, open the wrong storage area, and constantly turn around just to find a vegetable knife. Instead of viewing the entire kitchen as one large space, divide it into 4 zones right from the design stage: prep zone, cooking zone, cleaning zone, and storage zone. Knives, cutting boards, and spices belong in the prep area. Pots and pans are near the cooktop. Detergent and cleaning supplies are near the sink. When everything is in its proper place in its zone, cooking becomes so natural that you almost don't have to think about workflow anymore. Have you ever stood in a kitchen and felt like the space was shrinking, even though the actual footprint is not small? The next section explains why that happens. 3. Maintain proper clearance around the kitchen island. A kitchen begins to feel uncomfortable not because of a lack of square footage, but because everything is placed too close together. An oversized island looks impressive in a showroom, but when stepping into real-life daily routines, it easily turns into an obstacle sitting in the middle of the kitchen rather than the center of the space. The minimum number according to the NKBA is 42 inches for the aisle width on one side if only one person is using it. If the kitchen frequently has 2 people cooking together, that number should be 48 inches. These numbers sound small on a drawing, but make a clear difference in reality. One person opening the dishwasher while the other tries to grab something from the refrigerator is enough for you to feel the difference between 42 inches and 35 inches every single day. 4. Do not break up the countertop with tall cabinets. Many homeowners try to maximize storage by inserting tall cabinets in the middle of a long countertop, and logically, that makes perfect sense. You gain pantry space without expanding the overall area. However, in practice, this is one of the quickest ways to disrupt the flow of the kitchen. A long, continuous countertop feels much easier to use when preparing food, placing groceries, or multitasking. When a tall cabinet cuts across the middle of a countertop, the prep area is interrupted, and the visual flow in the kitchen is disrupted. That's why many designers often group tall cabinets to one side or place them at the end of a cabinet run instead of in the middle. Sometimes, removing one pantry cabinet can make the kitchen look larger, more upscale, and more efficient every day. From here, we move into smaller decisions that directly affect your daily experience. First is something that costs tens of thousands of dollars but has an important physical limitation that few people know about. 5. Check the limits of the countertop overhang. A floating countertop overhang at the island seating creates a modern, lightweight feel, but it is easy to miscalculate due to technical limitations rarely mentioned by showrooms. Not every countertop can extend freely. With 1¼ inches thick quartz or granite, the maximum unsupported overhang is typically around 12 to 14 inches. Exceeding this number without reinforcing steel brackets or corbels will cause the slab to experience stress at the joint when users lean on it frequently. Faint hairline cracks from overloading will appear silently over time. If you want a longer overhang for comfortable seating, install hidden steel rods or brackets underneath. This cost is very small compared to the total value of the countertop, but it protects its long-term durability. 6. Pay attention to countertop slab dimensions. A long and continuous kitchen island looks very high-end, but homeowners usually only realize the problem when finalizing details with the fabricator. Quartz, granite, or porcelain is not manufactured in infinite lengths. Standard slab dimensions from most manufacturers typically fall around 110 to 126 inches in length and 63 inches in width. When your island exceeds those numbers, the fabricator must use an additional new slab and create a seam between the two pieces. This issue has a major impact on both cost and aesthetics. Regarding cost, adding just 8 or 12 inches in length can push the material price up nearly twofold because you have to purchase an entire new slab. Regarding aesthetics, a seam located in the main prep area or a highly visible spot will be very noticeable. A well-designed kitchen always calculates slab dimensions right from the layout phase instead of waiting until choosing materials. Kitchen renovations rarely fail because of ugly cabinets or the wrong countertop. Usually, it is because of lacking exactly 12 inches in exactly a few spots. 7. Don't forget landing areas around appliances. Landing areas are the empty countertop spaces located next to the sink, refrigerator, and cooktop, so you have a place to set things down temporarily while cooking. It sounds simple, but this is one of the most frequently overlooked items in design plans that focus heavily on storage and aesthetics. You will feel that deficiency during very ordinary moments. Opening the refrigerator to grab items, but having no place to set the grocery bags down, while your other hand is closing the refrigerator door. Pulling a hot tray out of the oven and having to stand there, holding it in midair because the nearest countertop is currently blocked by another appliance. Washing vegetables only to have the countertop next to the sink be too narrow also causes clutter. This mistake creates small frustrations, but they accumulate continuously every day. The NKBA recommends a minimum of 15 inches of landing space on one side of a refrigerator, 12 inches on each side of a cooktop, and 24 inches on one side of a sink. These numbers do not need to be perfect in every scenario, but should be checked right from the layout phase before appliance locations are locked in. 8. Use countertop templates. Countertop templating is often the most overlooked stage in a kitchen remodel, yet it's where many final details are finalized before fabrication begins. Once the slab is cut, changes are almost no longer a practical option. This isn't just about measuring. The fabricator will ask for a series of small decisions that the initial drawings often don't fully reflect. How much should the countertop extend over the island seating? Should the drainer grooves be placed to the left or right of the sink? Where should the seam be positioned to be least noticeable? What edge profile is best for each area? Even a few millimeters difference in the overhang can change the overall feel when sitting on the island. Kitchens that feel custom-made are often meticulously crafted in these details, and the difference between being present at the templating session and just seeing the final photos is often much clearer than people realize. 9. Self-healing surfaces and acoustic design. With an open-concept kitchen directly connected to the living room, the sounds of drawers closing, dishes clashing, or chopping are no longer confined to the kitchen. This is why acoustic cabinet design is appearing more frequently in high-end renovations, not because of a trend, but because of the practical needs of families with remote workers or young children napping. Hydraulic damping systems combined with sound-absorbing liners inside the cabinet and drawer. Slides ensure drawers close smoothly, even when released. Simultaneously, surface materials like Phoenix NTM are being recommended by many fabricators for their ability to self-heal minor scratches using low temperatures, which is especially useful for matte countertops, which are more prone to scratches than gloss finishes. These choices may not impress in the showroom, but they make a clear difference in real-life use after a few years. I have never met a homeowner who used their kitchen long enough and said they wished they had fewer drawers. But the other way around, I have heard it many times. 10. Prioritize drawers instead of cabinet doors. There's a very practical reason why modern kitchens are gradually abandoning traditional lower cabinet doors. It's not about aesthetics, but because after a while, people realize the biggest problem with lower cabinets isn't the lack of storage, but the difficulty in accessing it. When opening a conventional cabinet door, you have to bend down, reach deep into the darkness, and grope for what you need while items in front get in the way. Infrequently used pots, storage boxes, or small appliances gradually disappear into dark corners, and many homeowners almost forget about their existence. Drawers are completely different. You pull them out and see everything at once. No bending, no fumbling. A good deep drawer from Blum or Heddick can hold all your cookware in a much more intuitive way than a traditional cabinet door. And the soft close mechanism makes each opening and closing so smooth that you almost don't think about it anymore. 11. Corner cabinets. Corner cabinets are a design dilemma with no perfect solution. And more important than finding a solution for the corner is whether that corner should even exist in the layout. When a corner cabinet sits right in the middle of a crucial workflow zone, such as between the cooktop and sink, it begins to obstruct the flow of movement in the kitchen. Its excessive depth causes items to be pushed to the back and almost disappear. Many homeowners only open corner cabinets a few times a year because each time they need to retrieve something, it's a nuisance enough to make them avoid the area. Solutions like the Lazy Susan or the Le Mans pull-out from Hafele significantly improve accessibility, but they don't address the root problem if the corner is cutting across a vital workflow. Sometimes sacrificing corner space to keep the countertop seamless and the flow of movement clear makes the kitchen far more efficient than trying to utilize every last centimeter. There is one thing in the kitchen whose location affects the workflow even more than the location of the sink. Most homeowners do not think about it until after the kitchen is already completely finished. 12. Plan for trash bins right from the start. Many kitchen renovations are meticulously planned, yet ultimately struggle with a very mundane detail: the trash can. This is often something homeowners think they'll consider later, only starting to look for a place to put it after the renovation is complete, ensuring it doesn't clutter the kitchen. Trash bins are far more important than many realize due to their frequent use. You use the trash can constantly throughout the prep, cooking, and cleaning process, almost every few minutes. If the location isn't ideal, each time you need to dispose of trash, the workflow is interrupted. An integrated pull-out bin placed right next to the prep zone is often much more convenient than a trash can in a far corner or under the sink. Besides practicality, integrated bins also make the kitchen look significantly neater and more upscale because everything is hidden inside the cabinetry, no longer a standalone object blocking walkways or disrupting the overall visual appeal. 13. Pay attention to the opening direction of appliances. Some kitchens look perfectly balanced on the blueprints, but in practice, they create a series of awkward operations simply because the appliance's opening direction is miscalculated. This is a detail many homeowners almost overlook during the design phase, yet they interact with it repeatedly every day. Most microwaves, dishwashers, and ovens have fixed opening directions from the manufacturer. If placed in an unsuitable position, the doors can block walkways or create very narrow working angles. The most common example is a microwave placed at the end of a cabinet run with the hinges facing the wall, forcing you to lean over and reach through the narrow opening every time you need to access something, which is especially uncomfortable when holding hot items. A simple way to avoid this is to accurately simulate the movement of using the appliance in the actual space, instead of just looking at its fixed position on the blueprint. A well-functioning kitchen is one where all operations occur naturally without you having to turn or dodge anything. I have seen a homeowner spend $80,000 on a kitchen remodel only to discover one thing that could not be fixed without tearing everything down. And that thing only takes a few inches to avoid. 14. Do not place the refrigerator too close to a wall. Most modern refrigerators need a minimum of 2 to 3 inches of clearance on one side so the doors can open wide enough for the interior drawers to pull out completely. That number is so small that almost no one notices it on a drawing, but without it, the crisper drawer gets jammed halfway. The door does not open fully, and you begin to lean your body at an awkward angle every time you grab items without understanding why the kitchen feels less comfortable than expected. A few inches of clearance is sometimes more important than trying to force extra storage into the layout. Check the refrigerator spec sheet before finalizing the location, not after. 15. Check the oven height very carefully. Before signing any cabinet configuration with a built-in oven, do something very simple. Stand up, raise your arms to shoulder level, and hold that position for a few seconds while imagining you're holding a hot tray just taken out of the oven. If that feeling isn't comfortable even in the simulation, what would it be like doing it every day for years? A combination oven with a fold-down door positioned too high is one of the easiest decisions to make that looks good in the showroom, but is most tiring in practice. Showrooms let you see the appliance for a few minutes. Your kitchen requires you to use it thousands of times. The difference between those two experiences often begins at height. The hood is still running. There is still a suction sound. But odors begin to linger longer after every cooking session. Most homeowners blame the wrong thing. 16. Recirculating range hoods require periodic filter replacement. The hood is still running. There's still a suction sound. But the smell of grease after cooking starts to linger longer, and gradually the kitchen feels stuffy and greasy, even though you clean regularly. This is a very common sign that the charcoal filter in the recirculating hood has become saturated, and most homeowners don't think of it first because the hood is still mechanically functioning. Recirculating hoods don't push air out. They filter it and blow it back into the kitchen. That mechanism is only effective when the filter is working properly. With average cooking frequency, replacing the filter every 3 to 6 months is a realistic figure, not a recommendation to sell additional accessories. 17. The shorter the range hood ductwork, the more efficient it is. The true efficiency of a range hood does not lie in the CFM number on the spec sheet, but in what is hidden behind the wall, the ducting. The more long duct runs or elbows the hot air carrying grease and food odors have to pass through, the more the actual suction power at the cooktop decreases. Each 90-degree elbow in the ductwork is equivalent to about 5 feet of straight pipe in terms of airflow restriction, and many kitchens have 3 to 4 elbows before the air exhausts outside. With an open-concept kitchen where the kitchen connects directly to the living room and dining area, this issue is even more pronounced because cooking odors are not confined to a closed room. A well-designed layout typically prioritizes placing the cooktop as close to an exterior wall as possible for short and straight ducting. This is a detail homeowners rarely ask about it when visiting a showroom, but it directly impacts the clean feel of the kitchen every day for many years. Shoulder fatigue after cooking for an hour is not because you are weak. It could be that the kitchen is forcing your body to work in the wrong posture without you realizing it. 18. Design countertop heights ergonomically. The standard 35-inch countertop height was calculated in the 1950s based on the average height of most people at that time. If you are taller than 5 feet 9 inches or shorter than 5 feet 3 inches, that default number is forcing you to work in an unnatural posture every day, which you might not realize until you start feeling shoulder fatigue or back pain after long cooking sessions. The simplest calculation method that many designers use is to measure from the floor to the wrist position when standing straight with arms relaxed naturally. That number is usually closer to the ideal working height than any general standard. If there are multiple people cooking in the house with different heights, some kitchens today design the island with 2 different heights on 2 sides, one side for prep work and a lower side for seating. This is not a fancy detail but a decision that directly affects your health over many years of use. 19. Separate light switches and use layered lighting. A kitchen with only one light switch has only 2 states, brightly lit or completely dark. This deprives the space of much of its depth and the pleasant feeling that is often difficult to pinpoint. Well-designed kitchens typically have at least 3 layers of independently operating lighting. Ambient lighting from recessed ceiling lights provides overall brightness to the entire space. Task lighting under upper cabinets shines directly onto the countertop, reducing shadows and making food preparation significantly easier, especially in the evening. Decorative lighting, such as island pendant lights, adds visual emphasis and warmth to the space without needing all the ceiling lights on at once. Dimmer switches for each layer are an upgrade that costs an additional $200 to $400 for the entire kitchen, but completely transforms the feeling of living in it, from cooking in the morning to dining with family in the evening. The best materials cannot save a sloppy kitchen installation, but few people tell you that straight out before you sign the contract. 20. Invest in a skilled installation crew. Many people spend weeks choosing the right cabinet color, countertop pattern, and appliance brand, then view the installation as an area where they can cut corners. That's often when a very expensive kitchen starts to look unworthy of its price. What differentiates a kitchen from something truly expensive often lies in the details that only a skilled fitter can handle. Perfectly straight cabinet lines, smoothly closing soft close drawers, nearly invisible countertop joints, clean under-cabinet lighting with no visible wires. All of these things don't appear in catalogs or showrooms, but they're things you see and touch every day. A well-built, budget-friendly kitchen often looks more upscale than a kitchen made with expensive materials but poorly installed. Installation isn't something you can cut without paying a price. 21. Design hidden charging stations and tech hubs. Modern kitchens are becoming places where people do more than just cook. Viewing recipes on tablets, charging phones while waiting for water to boil, and controlling smart home devices from wall-mounted screens. But most kitchen renovations still handle electricity and technology in a way from the previous decade, with exposed outlets ruining expensive backsplashes and charging cables scattered across the countertop. Under-counter wireless charging, hidden beneath quartz or porcelain island countertops, allows devices to be charged without visible outlets. Pop-up outlets with integrated high-power USB-C ports address the need for fast charging while maintaining a clean countertop look. Next-generation appliance garages not only conceal coffee makers but also incorporate built-in power and cooling fans to keep smart screens or speakers running continuously inside without overheating. These details distinguish a kitchen designed for this year from one that only looks good in photos. 21 tips. But really, there's only one overarching principle: designed for how you actually live, not for how your kitchen looks in pictures. The two are sometimes similar, but when they're different, always choose the former.